If you're loving the Power of Women podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you're going to get the latest episode, the best content, and be sure to log in to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Hey, I'm Di Gillett, and this is the Power of Women podcast. We're a platform that showcases and celebrates the strength, resilience, and achievement of women from all walks of life. In each episode, I pose questions to my guests to peel away the layers to reveal the knowledge and the experience that shapes their narrative. So if you're feeling unseen, unheard, or simply looking for inspiration, then the Power of Women podcast is a great place to join the conversation. So today we're going to talk about transformation, and we're going to talk about transformation of a business, but it's really the transformational journey that my guest in front of me today went through. That's really the part and how you navigated that I'd like to delve into, because it's one that's steeped in fear, self-doubt, pride, determination, and a lot of learning along the way. So sitting in the studio with me today is an individual who was formerly the CEO of her family's 80-year-old retail jewellery business, Bevilles Jewellers. She's the founder and CEO of Complete Success, and we will talk a bit further about that later in today's discussion. And she describes herself as a true student of learning and personal transformation. Michelle Stanton, welcome to the Power of Women podcast.
Thank you so much, Di. I'm really grateful and proud to be here.
Wonderful.
It's an honour.
Michelle, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Melbourne, family bred, raised in Melbourne, so I was very lucky to have the life that I did have in Melbourne. And my parents and the family life that I had was fantastic. And I was very blessed to grow up in a family business with all that comes with it and those many, many conversations around the table.
I bet that's where a lot of the learning came from, around the dinner table.
Absolutely. We were definitely a family that talked, lived and loved the business, Bevilles Jewellers, and everything that it brought for our customers as well.
Brilliant. So what was the most powerful learning on reflection from your childhood?
I think it's a wonderful question. I really believe that my family instilled in us, do what you love.
Simple as that?
Simple as that. My sister never loved the business, and she was encouraged to do the thing that she would love.
Yeah.
My brother and I happened to love the business, so we were encouraged in that. But whatever the sports, or my mum always had a sense of adventure. She was encouraged to go and, travel to the Himalayas, Africa, South America, whatever it was that she loved to do.
Wow.
And we were just really encouraged to do what we loved.
And talking off camera earlier, that's clearly played into how you've parented your children too.
Absolutely. It's the number one question I ask everyone.
Yeah.
My kids, my family, myself, is what would you love? And guides us well.
Yeah, brilliant. So could we explore the family history a little bit further? Because I know it's a family steeped in entrepreneurialism. Where did it start?
Well, Bevilles was founded in 1934 by my grandparents on my father's side, and it actually started with my grandfather and his two brothers. Shortly after, it's a retail business, and it actually started off in homewares and giftware, and later on became a jewellery business. And not so long after they established it, my grandparents bought out their two brothers, and then it became my grandparents and my parents' business.
And that you're one of three children, is that right?
That's right.
And was there an heir apparent within your siblings that was designated to take on the business?
Not at all, actually. So my sister was very clear right from the beginning that she didn't like the business and that wasn't her future. And for my brother and I, it was never. I grew up in a family where it was never like, well, the son is an automatic heir, or that if one of us or either of us didn't want to be in it, that was also okay. So it wasn't a clear cut.
So when did you step in to lead the business?
I stepped in to lead the business when in about 2009.
Right, but I worked in it in the lead
Yes,
up.
I joined the business just after I finished university, so we're going back a long time ago.
Yeah.
35 years ago.
So you grew up through the various functions within the business and saw the machinations of the various functional parts of retail?
Yes, I was very fortunate. I mean, I started off as an assistant manager, store manager, obviously working the shop floor when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then in my early 20s, I had a passion for travelling, and my dad saw the opportunity of each of his GMs at that time needed to go on long service leave. So I would step in and do their role for 3 to 6 months, maybe learn under them for 3 months when they went on long service leave, look after their role, and then I would then travel for 6 months. So
Fantastic.
I got to actually experience nearly all the areas of the business, which was a great...
And did you have a natural affinity for any one functional area?
I was blessed in that fact that I loved all parts. So I loved the buying.
Manager.
Yeah, I loved the buying. I loved the team. I loved the stores. I really loved the marketing. I learned to love the finance and have a good eye for that. So I was really enjoyed and steeped into every part. But I suppose where I spent the major part of my time was in the buying and the stores towards the end anyway, as I led the business.
So your father's approach really gave you a cadetship into being a merchant.
Yes, and learning what was done well and what wasn't done well was both served me well.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's talk about Bevilles and the journey both you and the business went on. Take us back to the events of April 2014. What happened?
Well, in April 2014, but perhaps I need to go back just a couple of years. So I took on the role as CEO in about 2009, that my brother and my father nominated me to become the CEO, which was a little bit of a surprise, but I decided to go with it. And there was a perfect storm brewing. The GFC was happening. The prices of the raw materials were going up about 50%. I had put on a lot of extra expense into the business because prior to that I was doing many of the functions, and now I needed to lead the business. And I was having my second child. And I was steeped in this uncertainty and disbelief that I really deserved to be in the role of CEO. And coupled with that fear of being found out that I wasn't really worthy of it, making some really poor decisions, and the economic times that were going on.
So were you holding that fear yourself? Had you shared that with your father, or...?
I definitely did, but he had confidence and belief in me, and so I think that feeling of like, you know how to do everything, it will be all right, was probably the mindset, and I probably believed that, but inside of myself I was churning with an enormous amount of
You had a lot going on.
fear.
And the market had a lot going on.
Yes, and of course the sales started to plummet very fast. We were going into loss making, and just the fear across the family, across the business. It was difficult times economically.
Yeah,
was everywhere, and I was steeped in that uncertainty.
So how did you manage the self-doubt? Because that could become all-consuming if you let it get away from you.
Well, I did let it get away from me, yes. Well, I think, life tends to throw you enough curveballs and difficult moments to actually push you to the edge, and you've either got to decide whether you're going to sink or swim. And I was given those curveballs, which in hindsight now were a blessing, one of which was when the banks gave, the business was losing millions of dollars at this time, only a few years after I took over, and I was given 90 days to come up with, $5 million when the business was losing money, otherwise they were going to put it in receivership. And so in those treacherous moments, picking yourself up from the floor, I mean, the only place you really want to be doing is crying and curled up. But there was that moment when I really said, I didn't want that to be my story. And
do you remember the emotions that you went through with fighting back the self-doubt? Was it debilitating at any point in your journey?
I would say it was completely debilitating. And waking up in just this knot inside of you, not being able to move, feeling in fight or flight, in freeze. I think I was more in freeze. So didn't know where to look. I was trying everything, seeking out different consultants. I was desperate to find a result. And yet it was eating the insides of me. Like literally my body was turning to acid. I was completely uncomfortable with myself. I was not there and present with my children. It was very difficult.
Had all of those.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, coming up, let's talk more about what it is that you did, how you tapped into your inner self of self-belief, and who you went to and how you explored the marketplace to find support in taking the business forward.
Yeah, so in making that decision that I was going to find a way, there must be a way. I mean, at the time we were serving over 500,000 customers a year. So I had this belief, and so did my brother, that, there must be a way. We just had to find it. And, one day I really woke up with the thought that, who do I need to become to be the person who can find a way and transform my thinking? Because I had really just become aware recently at that time was, oh my goodness, it could be my thinking that's causing these results, not necessarily the actions that I'm taking. And when I really heard that and that landed for me, I was dancing on my bed because I thought, oh my goodness, all I have to do is change my thinking. That will produce different results. And now I have an answer that might be possible.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, but it was easier than the pain that I was in.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Well, coming up, Michelle's going to tell us more about what actually changing her thinking was all about. If you're loving the Power of Women podcast, be sure to jump on to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. So, Michelle, there was a pivotal moment where you knew you had to transform the business, but you didn't necessarily know what all the levers were to pull to drive this transformation. So what did you do next?
So I had been trying everything at a physical level to change the business, to change the profit margin, the sales, all the cost structure of the business. I'd been really applying myself in that way. But the decision was that if I really wanted to change the results, I needed to change me first.
So you got through the GST. You got through that. What year are we now?
Well, so in 2014, the business was losing so much money, I actually orchestrated a voluntary administration. So I put the business in there with a buyback plan for the family to buy back the business. And of course, that was a very major, shameful, difficult moment for the family. However, we really believed that there was a plan that we could put in place that would allow us to pay back all our creditors, save most of the jobs, and then rebuild again. And I had the support of my family and had the support of all my team in this incredibly heroic,
tough decision.
But it was really the only way to break the cycle of what we were in, and allow us to renegotiate our rents and give a bit of a pause moment for the business to restart.
But there was much more to driving a transformation than taking the pause. So what were the steps that you took next?
So I would say there was a combination of first really learning about my own mindset, and then there were the things that I implemented into the business. But if I go to my mindset, was I needed to transform my thinking. I mean, firstly, I needed to now rid myself of the feeling of being a failure. I needed to create a new self-image. I needed to let go of all the shame. I needed to rebuild my own confidence as a world-class CEO and business owner, because otherwise I was just going to reproduce the same results again. And the first few years were very difficult. Like every week we were managing the cash flow to pay the payroll. So I was still transacting in difficult times. They were better. We were moving forward. But I was learning about mastering my mindset and my self-image. And
how were you doing that?
I Well, I went and searched the best of the best. I said to myself, well, if I'm going to change my mindset, there must be people who know how to do this and who have done that. So I ended up, going to America many times. I worked with, the likes of Bob Proctor, Mary Morrissey, Jean Houston, many of the great transformational leaders of our time who were, in their older years,
yes,
had seen a lot. And I literally sat at their heels. I was like, I'm going to invest at the highest level so I can learn exactly what they've done to create extraordinary results, and I will just replicate it in my thinking.
That's action though. That's not necessarily mindset. So where did the shift in mindset really come from?
Well, what they taught me was that firstly, having a vision is imperative. So I built a beautiful vision for the business, for myself, for my family, for my well-being and my mindset, and that then became the lead, that pulled me, I will call, and pulled the business towards the grand vision that we had. Then it was about shifting my thinking from what I didn't want towards what I do want. And that, of course, requires discipline and rigour. But once I started doing that more and more, things just started to come into place, and I started to see the results change right before my very eyes. As I changed my focus, so did everything else. And of course, if you go to the results formula where you have your results, which creates this feeling tone, which then creates your actions, and then that creates the results. I was very focused on what I was thinking about. And so therefore the results start to shift very quickly once I understood the formula, although not easy to do.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because my guess would be that discipline and rigour were part of who you were already, but
yes,
you didn't have the right formula.
Correct.
Yeah.
I only knew the formula of hard work harder, work even harder and harder, and worry about where things are at and what I don't want.
Was that generational learning?
It's very generational. My parents are extremely hard workers, and I think the self-doubt really, I was talking about with my mum just the other day. She was like, we steeped you in possibility of what you can do and do what you love, but I think we also passed down self-doubt as well.
Yeah. And it would feel very personal that you didn't want to let them down, because it was a business that had been passed down through the family. So did that harbour even greater sense of responsibility to get this right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, firstly, my team and people who trusted us with their money and their livelihood was huge. But in COVID, I was interviewing my parents to get their life story on Zoom, and one of the questions I asked my parents on the last day of the interviewing, what was the most difficult time of your life? And without question, they said the time of the administration. And my heart just went.
Oh, that would be hard to hear. Yeah, because you're in charge, and that was the toughest part for them. So you actually managed to capture an oral history from your parents.
Yes.
That's a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah,
that's very rich. So were there any surprises about what you learnt about yourself in going and seeking learnings from these gurus and doyens of industry?
Yes, I think the one of them is that you are greater. If you connect with this power that's inside of you, this life force and belief, you are greater than any circumstance, condition or situation, no matter how bad it looks, how long it's been going for, that there is inside of you, if you can imagine and believe a different version, you can transform that and as you take the action.
So tapping into that is all mindset driven?
All mindset driven.
And that's what you're doing now in your business is sharing the learnings from that?
Yes, absolutely. So I knew right from once I started steeping my, leaning into these beautiful principles, I knew that was, I wanted to be able to share the learnings and my experience and the code to creating extraordinary results in a way more easier way than I had previously learned with people, and to make a profound difference in their lives. And right from the get-go, I knew that that was what I felt called to do. And so in 2021, with the blessings of my family, with the knowing that this is what I really wanted to do, we made the decision to sell the business, and it was at the most profitable time. And, we sold it to a global multinational, Bevilles Jewellers.
Yep.
And, I really wanted to create for my family, and particularly my parents, the proudest moment.
Yeah, well done you.
Thank you.
So you talked about, when we talked off camera, you referred to the Transformational Code. Can you talk us through what you mean by that?
Yeah, so there is a code to creating extraordinary results, taking one set of results that are here, and no matter what it is, whether it be, for your personal health, your relationships, money, your business, whatever it is, it actually follows the same transformational code of taking one set of results and moving it into what you would love and how to go about it.
And listening, because I am.
And when I discovered that there is actually a code, and all you have to do is follow the code and apply it according to the code, not your way, then the results happen, and it is incredible.
So your discovery of the code was from talking to a raft of people, or was there any one individual who really mapped this out for you?
Well, Mary Morrissey from the Brave Thinking Institute was, I would say, the primary one who I studied under, but there was a couple that really, cemented my learning and awareness to then be able to utilise the code, put it in my own version, apply it to the way that I did. And, I'm very blessed because of the experiences that I've had. I've been able to utilise that code and be able to share it in a way that people really resonate with.
Wow.
And, I'm very honoured because all my clients way quicker than I was able to utilise this information, are getting extraordinary results.
As a result of it. Wow. So are there any parts of it we can talk to today? Can you give us some insights into it?
Yeah, so, the first thing is, one is a vision.
Yep.
Because without a desire of something that you would like to move from into,
you're going nowhere.
The second is, I call the number one code for transformation in complete success is called aware of what you're aware of. So,
because we always talk about being aware of what we're not aware of.
Yes, but here, this is a practice where as soon as you're aware of your thinking that feels contractive, that feels like it's, you can feel it in your body, it's sucking
limiting.
the life, it's limiting, it's sucking the life force out of you. As soon as we can become aware of that and transform it into moving it towards something that we would, feel more expansive towards our vision, we then change the energy of which we're operating at.
So we're back to mindset.
It's back to mindset and back to that vibration in alignment with your vision. And the third part would be really deciding that now is the moment. Because otherwise we're in
that
wishful thinking.
For me.
Yes. So if we haven't made a decision that now's the time and we're waiting for conditions to be perfect, maybe more time, more money.
But we could always make an excuse not to start.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's being brave enough to step forward and launch.
Yes, exactly. And I call that courageous thinking, actually, because it's not that we're not going to have fear. We are going to have fear.
Yeah.
But we're going to move ahead anyway.
I mean, I know that even with launching Power of Women, there was a light bulb moment, and it was a change of direction of what I thought it might have looked like 10 years prior when I first secured the name powerofwomen.com.au. But you could make up an excuse forever for not starting. It was stepping forward and getting going.
Yeah,
so
courageous
absolutely, absolutely resonates. So is there more than 3 key parts to this?
There are. Yeah.
It's got multiple steps of once you embark, it's what you what you do then.
But I take my clients through the steps in a sequence as we then do that. And, very quickly we install practices and mindset practices that rapidly transform people's lives. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful to watch.
So was your biggest learning, you wish you knew this before, is that, regret, one would suspect?
Well, I think you're only ready when you're ready.
Yeah.
And I would say that life has a way of giving you the lessons that you need to get you ready.
And sometimes those lessons are tough.
Usually they are. However, they don't have to be. If we say yes to learning these steps of transformation and this code, we can then engineer our extraordinary results and our awareness through choice rather than through what I call force, because an extreme events happen.
So have you been able to let go of your merchant skills? Because I think once a retailer, you're kind of always a retailer. You're still watching the business?
No, I very much let it go, which is a beautiful thing. And there was a lot of work to let it go, actually.
Yes.
The business and I had a very intimate relationship together.
We'd grown up together.
We'd grown up together. It was my life teacher. I was its life force, and so we both had to give each other permission to be free. Having said that, the creative force that comes from running a business and thinking about product, I'm always spending my time now thinking about ways to codify this information in a way that it lands for, the people that I'm connecting with, my community, so that they can take and run with this even faster than I did. And that's, I suppose, the creative force that I love.
Wow. And is that more... is there greater satisfaction derived out of that than being a leader of people in a business?
I think it's one of the same. I mean, I really, part of the transformational time at Bevilles was to actually, when I realised, the question was asked of me, if you were being the authentic leader that you would love to be, who would it be? And that was a very important part of the results that were created for Bevilles, because I realised I actually wanted to instill this belief and possibility and new identity in my team and for them and what's possible for their lives. And so I actually started there and, dedicated probably about, 60% of my working week towards helping people believe in their potential. So that was my breeding ground.
Yeah, so true leadership. So with the benefit of hindsight, would you have done anything different when you were faced with that tough decision in 2014?
Well, if I could have done something different prior to that, would have been to, rather than looking to change the results through just actions, I would have made the decision to change the results by the person who's thinking the thoughts. That's creating the energy that's producing the actions that would have created the results. And I think had I done that and supported myself with people who understood the mindset element, not just the strategists and the people who were looking to implement different things, I would have potentially been able to alleviate that difficult time.
So is that a bitter pill to swallow? Do you feel challenged by that? Because that's you reflecting on your own performance in some respects, or I mean, a lot of it was market circumstances, as well.
I mean, I take 100% responsibility for what happened for Bevilles in that time. Is it a bitter pill that I didn't know differently at the time? I think you're going back also, say, 15 years, 10 years ago since the restructure, but leading into it, the availability of mindset, and information around it wasn't there. So I think now, where it breaks my heart is that this information is readily available, and yet people are not courageous enough to say, yes, let me invest. If thoughts are creating my reality, wouldn't it make sense to invest my time, my money, my life force into changing my mindset and learning these systems of transformation rather than waiting for a really big bad event to happen?
So with the work you're doing now, are you finding there is any gender differentiation of the uptake of preparedness to adopt this type of transformational code?
Well, globally, women are faster adopters of this type of work because we're eager to get together in groups. We're always been eager for self-improvement or personal improvement.
Yeah,
it's
and probably not as stoic in holding back what's really going on.
Yes. However, I'm very, I suppose, I love helping women. My workforce was not, probably 90% women at Bevilles selling jewellery. But I also feel very called to assist men as well in this transformation because we need whole society to be...
Of course we do.
Taking on this level of awareness and thinking.
If we need to be allies to each other to exist.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's interesting. When I talk with individuals about power of women, and it's like, well, you're only talking to 50% of the marketplace, but it's kind of you're not, because the guys have got wives, they've got partners, they've got children, they've got daughters, and at no point is this about being a soft push of feminism. This is, we've got to be allies to support each other going forward. But it doesn't surprise me to hear that it's probably more readily accepted by female leaders than male leaders.
I think it's changing, but I look in my household, for example, when I started saying yes to this type of work. I mean, my husband's a very happy man. He doesn't has never wanted to seek this type of work. However, his, readiness as I've been evolving and becoming more confident and loving and filled with life and energy.
He wants some of that too.
He wants it too. And the conversations have changed, not through force, just because it's attractive. It's a beautiful way of being.
Has it changed the way you parent?
Well, yes, definitely, because we always were. I was the income earner in the family. My husband was the house husband, so we've always done things differently.
Yep.
But I think my husband was never ambitious in terms of, he never really set goals and, put himself in difficult circumstances. He has a way more cruisy, gorgeous way of being. Me, I'm a little bit more of the warrior. And
we can't have two. You'll be fighting.
That's right. So with our kids, it's been this beautiful blend of possibility. Lean into what you love and go for the dream, even if you don't know if you're going to get there. Yeah. Coupled with this, have a love for life as it is. So we're that perfect blend.
Beautiful. So tell me more about the type of clients you work with now. I appreciate you can't disclose who you work with, but are you talking to retailers because that's the space you've grown up in, or is it a far more diverse practice that you've developed?
Yes, far more diverse in terms of leaders, for sure. Yeah. So I've got, an Australian national sporting champion in my group. I have CEOs, but I also have beautiful people who are working for other companies and they're looking to grow their their joy for life rather than feeling from restriction. I have one beautiful client at the moment who, recently divorced, had never earned more than $50,000 or $60,000 a year. She was the, second breadwinner of the family. Life had thrown a real curveball at her.
And now she's got to step forward.
And she's stepping forward and she's built her own career and she's, living in the house that she brought up her kids. And I just love watching this empowerment for someone who was quite broken and quite quickly in just, a number of months creating a life that she's loving. It's fantastic.
Wow. So have you had to do training for this, or is this what you've learned from the transformational subject matter expert that you sought to study with?
Well, to be fair, I've probably put in about 10,000 hours of my own study of this content.
Wow.
So this isn't a, lick and flick and, I just read one podcast and here it is. This has been steeped in my own learning. I wake up very early in the morning. I used to say I was like living two lives because I would be up at 3:40 every morning whilst I was running Bevilles to do my mindset development and training and structures, and then I would go to work and do my other part of life.
Wow. Have you eased up a little?
Not much.
Really?
Not much.
Yeah.
But then I became certified to teach this content so that I can, very comfortably have a system of transformation that I share with my clients, but all steeped in only the things that I've used that have worked for me and the exact practices that I put in for both Bevilles, but also to love myself, to come to a new relationship with my love for my body, love for my family, being a way better parent, all of these things. I just teach what has worked for me. And it's great.
Acid levels gone down, toxicity gone down.
Life looks and feels very good.
Yeah, well done you. Well done. So if through the lens of power of women, and if we could bring it back to the female audience in this final question, Michelle, of all of the rich lived experiences that you've had, is there any key message that you would pass on to somebody listening to the podcast today?
I have a few, so I'll try and keep it concise. The first is that you are greater than any circumstance or condition or situation that you may be facing, no matter how bad it is, no matter how long it's been going on for. You are the greatest force in your life for transformation. So that would be the first. I would really encourage, to think about what you would love, not to think from conditions. And believe in that possibility, and then say yes, and yes with support. Because without the support of someone who knows how to create extraordinary results, without it being, through even harder work, you're going to be left with the same thinking, and that thinking will, continue to produce the same results.
Yeah. So it's self-belief. And it's really pursuing your passions and identifying what it is that drives you.
Yes, but it's not allowing I need to be ready for it. I'm waiting for conditions to go, because our thinking is producing the current conditions. And if we don't change our thinking, the conditions will never be right. So these are the perfect conditions to take the move.
Yeah.
And get support.
So there's a bit of bravery required in that.
Always courageous thinking.
Yeah, no, all of that resonates, and I hope that resonates with you. So, Michelle, if somebody is looking to engage with you and the practice that you're running, where can they find you?
Yes, very simply. So my website is www.completesuccess.com. You can contact me on email. I love to hear and share, and listen to people's stories and see how, what their vision is as well. And so they can contact me at Michelle, Michelle, at completesuccess.com.
Well done. Brilliant. Well, I think I can see sitting in front of me with a woman who is glowing, and retailers don't, and former retailers don't always glow. So it clearly resonates. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to follow and share any of the podcast with friends or somebody in your circle, and share what Michelle shared with us today, because there's always a reason not to get started, but there's every reason to get started. So I think that's really powerful. So thank you again. If there's a topic or a guest that you would like me to pursue, reach out to me on my website, powerofwomen.com.au, and I look forward to talking to you next time.